On today's episode, we're sitting down with Mark Polina. Mark works at an addiction rehabilitation center.
They just need to be shown love and hope. We're showing them, hey, you could overcome this. This is a way to help you restructure your life.
He's going to talk to us about his service and how doing service has impacted his life. He's also an actor, and he'll tell us about his journey to Hollywood. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
No, man, thanks for coming, man.
Oh, yeah, it's
been
great.
wanting to get you on here for a while, so I'm glad that it finally worked out.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man, let's jump right in, dude.
Okay,
Tell us
perfect.
a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? You know, what's your family like?
Okay, well, originally I'm from Staten Island, New York, East Coaster, and I like to joke around. I tell people I got lost along the way and ended up in California. But so I grew up there. It was really interesting because in my neighborhood in Staten Island, it was Italians and Filipinos. In fact, even my church was split in half. It was half Italian and half Filipino. It's changed now, but back growing up, that's how it was. You know, my parents are from the Philippines. They came over. Well, my dad came over first. He looked at my mom and said, I'll come back to marry you, but you got to give me a couple of years. I'm going to the United States. I'm going to enlist to become a citizen, even though he was already a doctor at this point.
Wow.
Flew over, enlisted, became an American citizen, flew back to the Philippines, married my mom, and then brought her over. And then so we've lived in New York all of our lives, and then, like I said, got lost and ended up here. But it was very nice growing up in New York. I love New York.
So your dad came on a student visa to become a doctor, or he was a doctor in the Philippines and came to?
He went to med school in the Philippines, became a doctor
Wow.
out there. But he knew he wanted to provide a better life for his future family. And he grew up in extreme poverty.
Yeah.
The nickname for the town he grew up in is the City of Dirt, because it was very, very poor.
Wow.
And he's the youngest of 12. And the older half of his family had to work right away. Once they became of age, they were forced to work because they needed money. And then the second half, they were able to go to school and become, doctors, lawyers, stuff like that. And my dad, being the baby, lucked out because everybody spoiled him. They're like, let him be what he wants to be. And he wanted to be a doctor. So he worked really hard, but he had a vision, and then he followed it.
He probably had to get a lot of Christmas gifts for siblings as he got successful. They're like, hey, dude, you're only a doctor because of me.
Well, exactly. It's that funny thing where if you ever see him interact with some of my aunts, they'll always remind him, remember when you were
I was in
at the
field.
couch? Yeah.
Remember when I was like 4 years old and I was already
working out in the world, and you were just a thought at the time. Yeah, I was already working.
That's awesome. And that's awesome that your dad was a man of his word and went back and, he must have truly loved your mom. And he didn't come over here and get like, well, I'm a doctor in America now.
Yeah. No, he met my mom. She was in nursing school and he was in medical school. And my dad fell head over heels and then would travel by train more than an hour back, to visit her, when school was in session.
Wow.
So, and
that's beautiful.
He would take the train, carry all these flowers. And till this day, it's a beautiful thing. My dad still buys my mom flowers at least once a week.
Oh, man.
So I was able to see what a real loving relationship is, because even though of course every relationship people argue and stuff like that, but their essence of true love never vanished. And talk about a bar being set high.
Yeah.
And when I moved out and lived on my own, everybody was like, are you in the dating scene, blah blah blah? Yes, but I had a standard that I look up to, and I was just like, that's what I want. Because I only want to do this once,
Yeah.
And that's what I want to live up to. They set an amazing example for me. So.
Now, faith plays a big part in your family, right? Tell me a little bit about how your faith and culture played a part in your life just growing up? And I mean, you kind of touch on the standard, but how important was it, going to church and having those values?
Well, it was really interesting because I went to Catholic school all the way up until college. College was the first public foray, I should say, in education. But it was extremely important. Why? Because I'm a restless kid. I get into stuff. I'm a little bit mischievous when I was younger. And so I needed that grounding. I needed that structure. It was very important to my family. And at the time when I was younger, I thought it was just something that we did, but it turned out to be more than that. It was nurture for my soul, and it helped me define who I really was in the sense of my moral code and what I believed in and trusting my gut because I had all of that instilled in me. And the same thing with my culture. My parents being from the Philippines was really important because when you grow up the child of immigrants, you kind of don't know who you really are because my parents they're Americans, became citizens, but they didn't grow up in America. Right. So they were juggling the fact of trying to raise American kids while being Filipinos in America.
Right.
But it brought us comfort because it really instilled Filipinos were family orientated.
Yeah.
And my mom is the second youngest of 6, and like I said, my dad of 12. And when we didn't know anybody, we had cousins, tons of cousins. So we grew up that way. And it helped bridge the gap in the social world because it helped define, again, who I was. So I knew who I was. And then when meeting other people of different cultures, different races, it was something that I was eager to share with them. And in turn, I would receive it as well.
Now, how did that affect how you got into the work you do today? Like, what led you to work at a rehab facility like Harmony Place? Is a lot of the values that you grew up with?
Of course. Well, my mom being a nurse, my father being a doctor, and having lots of family that are somewhat involved in some sort of healing capacity, you tend to, that's what you grew up with. So that's what you learned. And growing up Catholic, you're supposed to help others. You're supposed to treat people how you want to be treated, the golden rule. And what brought me to it was there are people out there that most of society has given up on. Mm-hmm. And they have this preconceived notion of who they are. And the thing is, that's only part of their life. And I think they kind of lost their way for real and need to rediscover that. Yeah. And sometimes they need someone to help them along the way. I'm not saying that we have all the answers. We're not telling them how to live life. But we're showing them, hey, you could overcome this. This is a way to help you restructure your life. And, the disease is more common than we all think.
Yeah.
Growing up, you see your friends and you're like, oh, we'll never be this, we'll never be that. But then all of a sudden you hit a certain age and reality hits, and now you have a friend who's been drinking entirely way too much or started abusing drugs entirely way too much. And the reality sets in, and you can't ignore them because they're the people you grew up with. They're the people that you love and care about. Yeah. And sometimes the people who need recovery, those people have abandoned them. They just need to be shown love and hope, which is really important. And so sometimes you just got to live outside of yourself and give that to them.
For sure. What do you think people misunderstand the most about individuals that are in the treatment facilities that you're at? Like, what's the biggest misconception about them?
That they're losers. That's the biggest misconception amongst normal people. I should say normal people.
Yeah.
is that, oh, these people don't care about life. These people, took everything for granted. No, not necessarily. What happened is they suffer from major trauma growing up in their life, come from abusive homes, have been abandoned, or gone through something else traumatic, death in the family or severe divorce, losing their children or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're just normal people who didn't know how to deal with these things and turned to something that just numbed them.
Yeah.
Because that was the easiest way to deal with it.
How many people come into your programs that are court mandated opposed to voluntarily coming in to seek sobriety and seek a 12-step foundation?
It varies.
Yeah.
It varies because what happens is it depends on what kind of crime they committed and then what kind of time they're looking at. And then they may come to us court mandated, but there's a lot more voluntary people. Well,
really?
When we say voluntary, it's mostly family,
domestic situation.
Yeah, domestic situation.
But it's more voluntarily coming in than court mandated. I got sober years ago, but it was court mandated.
Right.
But I always say it saved my life. It wasn't like I wanted to change. I didn't want to stop drinking or using.
Right.
I was court mandated. It was that or
jail.
Go to prison.
Yeah.
And I obviously was like, well, I'll take the rehab.
The rehab.
And but it saved my life. It
Right.
was literally, I never relapsed. My whole life changed at that moment going into rehab. So I'm a fan of court mandated. I don't think that it's it's a choice. Like, hey, if it gets them in, the miracle could happen. So that's why I wonder. But I thought it would have been the other way. I thought it was more like when I went into rehab, it was everybody was there court mandated.
Right.
There was like maybe 2 people that were like, I'm really trying to stop doing because when you're in your addiction, you don't think drug is the problem. Right?
Yeah.
It's everybody else.
It's everybody
is the problem.
else.
So
Yeah.
it's my family, it's my childhood, it's this, it's that. So
State-run facilities tend to have more court-mandated
people.
You're
private.
We're
a private facility.
But we are very open to working with programs to get them in there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how does without getting too much into it, but like how is funding on that? Can people use insurance?
Yes.
Is it okay? So
the insurance, cash pay, and or
Social Security if they're on like a disability.
Yes.
Okay. SSI
Yes.
stuff like that.
And then we have a case manager that will assist the clients.
Right.
So if they are in financial hardship, they could apply for different things to keep them in there.
Yeah.
Because obviously, to benefit society, we need people to get better.
Sure.
So
yeah, exactly. That's another misconception. It's like people think, oh, my taxpaying money. It's like, yeah, well, the whole goal here is it's similar with affordable living. The goal is as a society, we want to help our fellow citizens,
fellow man, fellow
help
woman,
the community get better and get
Exactly.
them off these substances and get them in housing that they could have some dignity and clean. And then the miracles happen. Usually they want to better themselves. They go back to school or they get a job. And that now we have done our job as members of society to help each other.
You give because there's a lot of us, and I will say this, including myself. I was very blessed in life, and there are people that are going through. I like to say they're going through hell because they are.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to think outside of yourself because we're with ourselves 24 hours a day. How beautiful can it be to think about somebody else for even at least 8 hours?
Right.
Because you're with you every second of the day.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have to think about yourself all the time because then we get stuck in our ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live in that.
We live in that.
Can you share a moment that at work that's really impacted you? That's whether negative or positive,
Well, there's been a lot. I'll share this one. I'll share both, one negative and one positive. When I mean negative, it doesn't mean that, oh, I wanted to quit or something
right,
like that.
Right, but it just didn't work out the way you hoped.
Yes.
Type of thing, yeah.
Where a young kid came in and fentanyl is such a terrible thing. It is.
Wow.
It is gripped our youth like no other, and it blows my mind. And this kid, super young, early 20s, had been homeless for 3 years. It's the first time he slept in a bed in 3 years when he got there. But the grip was so tight that within 4 days, he was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And the reason why that landed on me so much is because when you see someone with so much potential, and that's what the disease has overtaken their life, and they don't really understand what's going on, and you just want them to have that one moment of clarity.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know how it is. They say you have to hit rock bottom before you realize, and maybe he hasn't hit it yet. And the only thing I could do is just hope and pray that he survives his rock bottom, and makes it back and takes it seriously the next time, because you can never force anybody. Right. You know, if they want to leave, there's the door.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Not funny, but yeah, I totally understand. I remember I just had this conversation with somebody I love that's having issues, and really, it's so strange when you're sober, or you're living life, and when you look at somebody in that position, it's so easy to be like, how can you?
Right.
Where does this exist that whether you're homeless, you're addicted to fentanyl or whatever, I'm just using, everything's bad. To us, it's like, that's unimaginable.
Right.
But they haven't hit their bottom.
No.
And you're right. I recently had a conversation and a sit down, and it was like, and I'm throwing like things at this person who I love, like, look, do you want to go to a meeting? I'll go with you to a meeting, right? Like, I'll give, like, it's, because I know I need to give back.
Right.
As somebody who's been there.
Yes.
I mean, I have to give back. And you're not just giving back for them. You're actually giving back for yourself. Like, that's what's great about service work. It is, you're doing anything when you're feeding homeless, anything. Yeah. It's like when you give, it's, you got to give to receive. But it's like, it does something for you to do service work. So anyways, I offered this stuff, and the person's just not ready. Just was like, no, thank you. And I'm just like, what you said. I remember in the program, they said, you know what? They got to hit bottom. And I remember when I was new, a guy told me in the meeting, hey, if you don't feel like you want to be here, there's a bar at the corner.
Just go.
Yeah. It's like, just go get a drink. Why would you waste your time with us?
Yeah.
And I remember being like, what do you mean? And today I get it. It's like, dude, go drink, dude, go smoke,
do whatever you want.
Do whatever it takes until you're absolutely done. And at that point, you still may not be at bottom. But when you have no other options, you're bankrupt. Then maybe you have a chance to get sober.
Right.
And it's like so difficult. So anyways,
and then it's also important, because if you don't want to be there, that's a slot for someone who's trying to get it.
Yeah.
And it's circular in that way. And let that person get that opportunity. And then when you're ready, don't worry, a seat will open up for you, or a bed will open up for you.
Yeah.
And that will be the time for you.
Yeah, you'll come back.
Yeah.
Tell me about the positive one.
Well, and pardon me if I get emotional on this one, but there was a gentleman who came in. He had a severe crack addiction. Came in, and what was amazing was, very intimidating looking gentleman. The biggest teddy bear you'll ever meet. Grew up in such harsh conditions where growing up, all he was told was, because he was a big guy, even as a kid, very big, you got to fight all the time so no one will mess with you. Fight. And then his family, they wanted to see who was the toughest amongst the cousins. So you got to fight each other all the time. And, grew up in a bad neighborhood, gangs, whatnot. Got arrested. Did a long time in prison. Came to our place. Every morning, woke up singing. Every morning, woke up grateful. And he said, I went from nothing to here. Even though this is a facility, I have a bed to sleep in. I get fed. I get to learn about myself. And I get to be of service to my peers and talk about, they all nicknamed him, Pops, because he was like the dad of the house. And he would sit down with people and just talk to them and just share his experience, but also help people understand their experience and how it can be changed. Wow. He was greatly missed when he discharged, and everybody got really emotional about it. So was I, but it was one of those things when he walked out of that door, you look at them and you're like, that man has gotten a second chance and he's taking full advantage of it. And the most amazing thing is, while he was in there, he got a job, he helps the homeless now, and he's ingrained in social programming, making sure homeless people have shelter, making sure people have food to eat, and just grateful. And he's an example of somebody who has been dealt such a bad hand, but Uno card was able to reverse that. And I've never seen him angry, never seen him upset. Even if it was a hard day, he would wake up and go, it's another day I'm breathing, and it's another day that I'm here, and it's another day I get to help.
Wow.
And how can you deny that?
Yeah.
How can you deny that? So
that's beautiful, man. How's this job changed the way you view your own life and purpose? I mean, a moment like that with Pops, I could tell how impactful that was for you,
We all go through our trials and tribulations, right? But then it made me look outside and say, we all have trials and tribulations that we have to go through. Some are worse than others. So if someone was having a bad day, because I used to shoot off at the mouth, like someone gave me attitude, I'd be like, what's your problem and whatnot, But it took me outside of that. So if someone's having a bad day and rubs me the wrong way, I go, I don't know what that person's going through.
Yeah.
That person might be going through the worst situation in their life.
Yeah.
I need to just ignore it, leave it alone. It is not any of my business. That brief interaction was just that, brief.
Yeah.
There's no need to carry it on, because then we just add more burden and weight to our lives.
Yeah.
That is unnecessary. So I started taking it in as this thing of letting go and expressing gratitude to others and towards myself. You have to be thankful for everything you got, even if it's nothing.
Yeah. Man, everything. Before I move on, I just want to punch on a point that everything you're saying is such a reminder of what we do here at National Core. The idea of having the FYI podcast and the story that Mark just told us about Pops. we're fortunate to be able to see that in our community here at Hope Through Housing and National Core. We see residents that I have a neighbor who I watched. We all moved into our housing at the same time, and her daughter was in junior high at the time, and I watched her daughter, kind of go through high school. I mean, just kind of passing by, seeing her growth, and she ended up getting a scholarship. She went off to Harvard. She graduated from Harvard. She works at Johns Hopkins. She's very successful, and it's beautiful to see that we at National Core, Hope Through Housing, play a small part in providing dignity and housing for people. They were living in a car before they got the apartment.
Right.
Her father had got he was undocumented and got deported.
Oh, wow.
And her mother, they were living in a car because her mother's a citizen. Yeah. And because of their opportunity to live in a National Core building, all this amazing stuff has happened. So I love what you were saying about Pops, and it is beautiful that we get to play a role in just affecting people's lives that way. Let's get into the passion, man. What got you into acting? What keeps you connected to acting? Why an actor?
Why an actor?
Yeah.
A lot of people ask me this, and sometimes I joke around. Yeah, why? I have no idea why.
Oh, would you pick this?
Yeah, why
field?
this? Why this? Maybe I'm a masochist and like to struggle, right? No.
Be broke
and stuff like that. No, I really like understanding how people work.
Yeah.
Their mind frame. How they conduct themselves in certain situations. Now, let me preface this. My parents are very much into the arts. So even when I was young, we were going to Broadway. And I'm like, I don't want to go to a Broadway show. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do, But they introduced me to it. And the older I got, the more respect I had for it. And I realized how much work it was.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad and I, we used to joke around with our mom. It was hilarious. We would see people walking down the street having a conversation. My dad and I would look to my mom and be like, "Oh, okay, so that guy, he's a millionaire and he's conducted." And my mom would be like, "Really?" And we were like, "No, we're just kidding." But we loved creating these stories.
Yeah.
And when I got into college, we needed general electives. I needed a fine arts grade. Theater 100, right?
Yeah. Should be simple. I needed the easy A, bring up my GPA, whatever. My friend did it the semester before, and he goes, all you have to do is props because they don't need you most of the semester. The students who are doing the acting, they give you a list of the props they need. You go in the back, you pull it out and go, hey, here you go, and they usually give you an A. But the thing about Theater 100 was, regardless of what department you're going to go into, they make you do a monologue in front of your class. Right.
So I did a monologue, and my teacher came up to me afterwards, and he was just like, hey, I noticed you wrote down props. Not going to happen. I was like, what do you mean? I want the easy A. He was like, I'm putting you on stage, whether you like it or not, as a joke.
Wow.
As a joke. And then once we started rehearsing, I go, oh, I get to apply those things that my dad and I used to do. Look how that person walks. Look how that person talks. Look how he conducts himself. I get to apply that and create this thing and tell a story. And I loved telling stories. I'm very much a storyteller. And when we had our play, it's in front of other students. My parents drove up because they were like, you're doing a play. We have to see this. It's a one act, very simple. But once I stepped on performance time, I was like, oh, I'm home.
Fell in love with it, yeah.
I'm home. I did agree with them to double major so they wouldn't worry. But the more I started doing it in college, they were like, oh, it's only a matter of time. And sure enough, when I graduated, a few months in New York, I was doing it in New York. And my sister already lived out here. And I turned to my folks, moving to California.
Give it a shot. Go to L.A. Now, you come to L.A. and you get linked up with a great coach
Yes.
Right? Who
Yes.
we know. I did not study with Joe, but
Yes.
I know a few of his students, including you, and you guys. This was a special man. I met him.
Yeah.
I think he came to
Replica.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about Joe
Joe.
and your mentor.
He was amazing because it was a couple of years after being in LA that I got to meet him. And I was jumping from class to class and never really finding my groove. I always just felt like, oh, I'm just here to be here. I'm doing work, but I don't know if I'm really learning or perfecting my craft.
Yeah.
And then when I met Joe, he spoke to me in a way that was really constructive and educative, but he also helped me believe in my talent. And that landed on me so well because, as every actor and any, field, we're a little bit trepidatious with putting ourselves out there.
Yeah.
But he always taught me to be fearless, truthful and fearless. And that's how you should approach the work.
Yeah.
What truth is being said, even though we're performing, we're quote unquote being somebody else, but we still have to be truthful. And that really sunk in. And he made me look at the words on the page very differently. Because for a while, a lot of actors fall into this trap of, how would this person say these lines, this character say these lines?
Yeah.
But the truth is, how are you in that situation going to say these lines?
Right.
And that was a different perspective that, we're extensions of the character. So we have to look at that work that way. And I go, oh, I'm not guessing what needs to be said. I am saying these, words in that specific way. If I was in that situation, how would I deal with it? Granted, we get to create characters, different mannerisms, and live in it. But in the core, it's being transferred through us. We're the conduit to that message, that story, that whatever is being told. We're projecting it outward for everybody to understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Moving forward, where's Mark going to be in the next 5 years?
I mean, it'd be lovely to be a series regular, but
yeah.
But I've also come to this point in my life. Acting is for me. I love it. And when I get to do it, I get to do it. I'm 100% committed and love it. And of course, in 5 years, I would love to have a feature film or series regular. But also, I can't just think about myself. So I would love to be, married. I would love to have kids. And I would love and continue to be someone that someone can rely on, be beneficial to someone's life, to help. And I think that was very important growing up, was help your sister, help your mom, help your dad, help your classmates, help whoever is around you. Because when you need help, you shouldn't be afraid to ask, because that will always be given back to you, because you helped others, and the right person will help you. Yeah. We've become a place, we've landed in this weird spot where people are afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
And we tend to lose that part of humanity, and it is a beautiful thing when someone helps you or you get to help somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Mark, before you get out of the hot seat,
yes,
every guest that comes on, I close out with, I ask them to look at their camera. And for anybody listening at home that's resonating with your story, what advice do you have for them?
Live every moment with gratitude, with hope. Extend yourself to others that may need that same help or hope. and think beyond yourself at times. Think about others, care, and just love. Love. Even when it's the hardest. That is the most important time to spread love, is the day that you are angry, and that is the day that you are filled with disgust, is the day that you have to extend yourself even further to help others and even help yourself. Because the second you help someone else, extend your hand, your day will drastically change too. So think of it that way. If you're having a bad day, someone's having it worse, and it can help both of you.
Love it, man. Mark, thanks for coming on. You know, this is special. The day after Easter, this is exactly what I needed to hear. Yesterday, I was thinking a lot about, Jesus' resurrection,
Right.
and what that means, and just, how I could be of more service. So just hearing you talk about your service work and how important love and sharing is really inspired me. Like, it's something I'm trying to incorporate even more into my life. I'm going to close this out. Hey, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really did. I got something very important out of this. When I just asked Mark, where do you see yourself in 5 years? He did start off with hopefully a series regular, which means the lead of a show, making a lot of money. He laughed and then said, I hope that I'm able to provide help for somebody, whether it's having a family or in the work I do. And I think truly that's what hit me in my soul. Sure, we all want to be successful and we all want to make money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, the core value, in my opinion, for all of us as mankind to exist is service. And I hope that I get better at doing that too, and just putting out more good in the world than I take. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hey, I'm chasing my dreams. Mark is chasing his dreams, and we hope you're out there chasing your dreams. See you on the next episode.
You should never stress about the problems you be facing. Everybody in the mud on the struggle trying to make it. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration. I'm finding inspiration, and once I get a hold of it, I'll never get complacent. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration.